All right, friends and family. I'm not giving up on this. I'm going to try to speak some reason, and hopefully, the right people can find it in themselves to listen through this and give some weight to what I'm saying and dare to challenge yourself, dare to question yourself, and dare to pivot. I know it can be really hard to change your stance on something, especially if you've made your stance known. I understand what it can be like to get trapped by your own pride and not want to admit to being wrong. But the first thing you need to consider is that maybe worrying about yourself being wrong is insignificant here in the grand scheme of things. Just let your pride go. And I think there's a lot you can admire about somebody when they can pivot and say, you know what? I know that I was dead set in my ways before, but now that I think about it again, and now that I consider some of the things that you've said, I realize that maybe I was wrong. Maybe my stance was based on some misinformation that I didn't realize was misinformation at the time. Now I realize it is, and I'm just going to admit I was wrong about it, and I am willing to change. I think there's multiple reasons why there are people who are still Trump supporters at this point in time. I think some of it is just pride and holding on to the dream. Just not wanting. Nobody wants to admit that they got something wrong, especially if they've ever gotten in a fight with anyone over it. There's been times, completely unrelated to this, there's been times where I've been absolutely sure about something and argued with somebody. And then I realized, oh crap, I was totally wrong. I misunderstood this one thing and I made this whole big spectacle, maybe even told them that they were an idiot. And then I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize this thing. The right thing to do in that situation is to just own up to being wrong and just be like, man, I'm such an idiot. I'm sorry. I was so sure of myself, but I didn't know this one thing. I know it now. And I am so sorry that I was so sure of myself. I'm sorry I called you an idiot. Turns out I'm the idiot on this one. Being able to do that is one of the hardest things, and it takes a lot of personal growth and maturity to be able to do that. I've only recently, in my 44 years on this planet, only in the last several years have I been to the point of maturity where I can do that. Where after being dead set on something, I can be like, oh shit, I was wrong. Aren't I the idiot? So I think that's one reason that some people are still behind Trump, is I think they're afraid of doing that. And then the other reason is just more obvious. It's just people are just still convinced, and the right mechanisms have been put in place. The right pandering has been put in place where it's pretty airtight. And I'm not going to go down the road of calling it a cult. I will say it's likened to how a cult works. It's easier to say MAGA is a cult. Obviously, it's not a cult. But a lot about it that makes people so loyal to it, a lot of the voluntary ignorance and dismissing of reality, those aspects of it are very likened to a cult. It's what gives a cult oxygen. It's what builds the walls around a cult. And I actually have known numerous people who have been in cults. I'm not going to say who they are because that's up to them if they wanted to say who they are. I know people who literally have been in actual cults. Luckily, they got out. It's two people. I know two different people. But I've talked with them about it at great lengths, like where their head was and how they were able to believe it, blah, 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 blah. And it's extremely similar to people I know who are diehard Trump supporters. And these are not dumb people. The two people I know who've been in a cult are intelligent, educated people. So my point is that anybody can succumb to it. But to be a Trump supporter and possibly think that the vast majority of the world who opposes Trump have all been duped and they are in a cult, I'm sorry, but that doesn't float. That doesn't work. If you dissect that, it instantly sinks. So don't go there. Deflection is not an excuse. It doesn't exonerate you from where you are currently standing. I'll openly admit that a lot on the left, a lot of Democrats, liberals, whatever you want to call them, maybe you want to call them libtards, they can exaggerate things. It can seem over the top. But can you blame them? I'm not a fan of some of the tactics on how the left is trying to deal with Trump, because a lot of it does just make them seem crazy. I think there's better ways in many instances, but you have to be realistic and understand the gaslighting that is going on from Trump, and then it seems to be regurgitated by Trump supporters. The term Trump derangement syndrome is so condescending in its the definition of gaslighting. And yes, there are some people who it annoys me that they hate Trump so much that they'll just believe anything about him. That annoys me. People who are overtly biased bothers me. Every criticism that I have of Trump, it has nothing to do with any skin I have in the game. It's objective. It's this thing he's doing is wrong. The way he's lying to these people and duping them is wrong. What he's trying to achieve with these lies is wrong. Bad. None of it is just because I hate the guy. I'm not on the hate train. My hate is warranted, justified, and I got receipts for it. I can back it. But those of you who are still on the train, like, put down your shield. Stop being defensive when people like me try to talk to you about it. Stop trying to defend yourself. Or stop trying to get ahead of the game by offending first. Just listen. Because there are countless, thousands of red flags waiting for you to see them. They're there for you to see. The first step is to remove the goggles that they've put on you that make it so you can't see those red flags. You got to pull off the goggles. You have to be willing to. Because if you're not willing to do that, the whole conversation is a waste. Just be willing to accept the possibility, because there's two sides here. One's right, one's wrong. Either Trump is magnificent and everything he's doing is great for America and he's going to save the country, or it's all bullshit. So, are you willing to be wrong? Because I am. But it would be pretty hard to convince me at this point. You would have to unveil the most complex, insanely elaborate conspiracy in the history of intelligent life in the universe. That every bad thing about Trump has been craftfully created, and that everyone who's in on it has kept the secret that it's fake. No one has defected and admitted that it was all a setup. I would give it 1 in 700 trillion odds. But I'm still open-minded enough to say, if you can prove that, I'll listen to it. So you should be able to listen to me because my points are backed by irrefutable evidence. They are things you can just go check and see. Whereas to convince me that Trump is the victim of some complex deep state plot, you're going to have to pull some serious rabbits out of your ass. Which isn't even that much of a stretch these days because people seem to just think that they're pulling rabbits out of their ass left and right. Every gotcha by a Trump supporter that they think they're throwing at me, I catch it and I'm just like, this is what you have? This is what you're throwing at me? This. None of it holds up. It's all just hot air based on delusional ideology. So it would be really nice if some people could just hear me out here. There is a con job going on in this country right now, and I'm sorry it's not by the radical lunatic left, George Soros, deep state, whatever else you've been convinced of. This is not the land of make-believe. This isn't like your religion. Like, I'm openly atheist, but I grew up religious. I understand what it's like to believe in something you can't see. And that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine for religion, because that only affects you. Please do not base your politics on just believing things that you like to believe, because that affects other people. Politics, if you even want to call this politics, is not the place for faith-based beliefs. You need to apply the scientific method, which is not the Charlie Kirk prove me wrong method. That is the opposite, and that's how we've ended up where we are. Believing something because someone can't disprove it is not how you do it. That is literally what makes conspiracy theories work. That is how I can say the intergalactic flying spaghetti monster is real and used my bathroom yesterday. Prove me wrong. Well, you can't, so now it's true. That is what almost all of MAGA beliefs are based on, is that system of reasoning. Does that make sense to you? Is that how you should believe in things? Sure, fine if you want to do that with religion, because who knows? We don't know. I mean, I'm pretty convinced. But anyways, that's another conversation. Just because MAGA, and I'm just going to say MAGA to encompass the entire movement. That could be Trump, that could be Caroline Leavitt, who's a special human being. All of these people that are disseminating and propagating this gross level of propaganda that to some people, like me, we just see it as it is. We're like, this is insane shit. But if it happens to accommodate your fears and your desires, and that's when the confirmation bias kicks in and you're like, I love what they're saying. They're saying what I want to hear. So I'm going to accept it as truth because it feels good. It feels good to accept it as truth because then it validates. Now it validates what I want to believe and what I need to believe. I need to believe these things to feel good about myself, to feel safe, to not be afraid. And if you think for a second they don't know this about you, well, now you know. People like Jesse Waters, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, even Tucker Carlson, who lately has at least stood up to Trump on certain things, but he's still Benny Johnson, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, all of these people who are pandering to you, but they're good at it. People who are good at pandering don't seem like they're pandering. It's kind of like they say to women, the secret to wearing makeup is to look like you're not wearing any at all. Well, that's the secret to being a con artist and to playing people, is to not seem like you are at all. The secret is to seem like you're with them. You're fighting for them. You're fed up just like them. All of these media personalities on Newsmax, Fox News, what have you, they're playing you. They're acting like they're pissed. They're pissed just like you. That's what they do, is they make it seem like you and them have that in common. So now you're friends. Because you have this common cause, this common enemy, this adversity that you need to overcome together against this evilness that is the Democrats. How convenient is it that Trump and his pals have made you hate people on the left to the point where you hate them blindly? To the point where if anyone tries to speak something to you from the left, ears off, silence, don't listen, crazy. You are programmed or groomed to instantly discredit anything that comes into your head that's not coming from their media machine. It's fake news, right? Trump coined the term fake news. Do you know why he would do that? Could you think of a reason why a power-hungry person with a long history of being a shit human being, of shitting on the little guy, of taking advantage of people, his only business successes have been in loopholes and ripping people off. Otherwise, he's been a complete failure. Can you think of a reason why it might be advantageous to him to get you to hate a group of people so much that you won't listen to them, including media? Do you think it might be advantageous to him to get you to no longer trust media sources that for decades have been trusted in America? How might he benefit by getting you to not trust ABC News, CBS, which he now controls? So now you probably can trust CBS News now. We've never had a president who's waged such a war on the media. So you're telling me that the media has been pretty okay, but just by coincidence, when Trump comes along, now they all have a vendetta against him because he's doing such good things for you. What good things has he done for you? He's thrown you some red meat. Name a policy that he has passed that hasn't benefited his billionaire friends and corporations more than it's benefited you. The tariffs. Does it offend you at all that he thinks you're an idiot and you don't understand? Or maybe, who knows, maybe he is that stupid where he doesn't understand. I don't think so, though. He's got smart people around him that are explaining to him. He's got Howard Lutnick. He's got Scott Bessent, who are not dumb people. They're just bootlickers, and they're just loyalists to him. So they'll go along with his weird, petulant child ideas. But they're telling him, they're telling him, Mr. Trump, sire, your royal greatness, listen, this isn't really how trade works. This isn't how tariffs work. But you're not offended when Trump just blatantly plays you as a fool, knowingly lies to you, and then his little lapdog J.D. Vance will go along with it. They all go along. All these people who used to say that Trump is a horrible person, amazing, miraculous how they all just saw the light. They all just evolved. And now they just suck up to him. That's not a red flag to you. They all just came around for wholesome, righteous reasons. Not for any personal gain, not because they got blackmailed. Not because if you're not loyal to Trump, you're out of the party and your career's over. Not because of that. They all just didn't realize what a great guy he is until they got close to him, right? You're going to believe that. But those of us on the left who oppose Trump, we are crazy. It's crazy for us to think that this man who thumbs his nose at the Constitution, who literally openly acts like a dictator, jokes about it, we're fools. We're suckers, right? January 6th. Many of us watched it live on TV. Maybe you need to check yourself. Because here's a really good test to see if you've been played, if your mind has been accessed and made to be malleable. How on earth have you been convinced that day wasn't what it was? The whole 272 FBI agents planted thing, not true. You can look into it. Even Kash Patel, the director of the FBI now, who's a total Trump loyalist, literally wrote a children's book depicting Trump as a king who has been wronged. Like, whack job to the definition. Even Kash Patel, before this was conjured up and used by Trump as one of his many lies to get your head in a weird place, even Kash Patel said that's not what it was. Those were FBI agents who were there because of what was going on, and they were basically like kind of on call. They were there regardless. It wasn't any complicated plot where they led people. You have to understand that many of these convicted January 6th rioters, they pled guilty. They admitted. Many of them were apologetic about what they chose to do. But you're going to believe it sounds like a Steven Seagal movie. You're going to believe that there was an elaborate plot that duped and led people into storming the Capitol unwittingly. And then Tucker Carlson releases some highly filtered, selective footage that depicts it as a peaceful day, and they were letting the rioters in. They were allowing them in. Completely out of context. But it helps your narrative, because then you can be like, you know what? Now I'm not an idiot for supporting Trump, because if I just believe this shit, and there's plenty enough other people believing it, so it's not like I'm a weirdo, because I'm believing what a lot of other people are believing. So it's okay. No, it's not, because you know you're wrong. Police officers were beaten. One died because of the heart attack he had. Others committed suicide because of the trauma of what they experienced that day. That's how insanely out of control it was. Overwhelming amount of video footage showing this. I have a cousin who was there, but I promised to him I would not reveal his name because he's worried he would lose his job. He left because he even admitted to me. He was like, he's like, I just went there to check out to see what was going on. I'm a Trump supporter. I wanted to see his speech. And then we all started walking to the Capitol, but then I started to see how insane it was and that these people were crazy. So I got out of there. He was there with a friend. They both got out of there. And he told me this way back, like before we even knew that Trump was going to run for president again. So was he making that up? My Republican Trump supporting cousin who was there and told me personally that it was bad and that these were Trump supporters that stormed the Capitol. But what are you going to believe? Not me? I am telling you that my relative, who's a Trump supporter and was there, confirmed with me that January 6th was exactly what we all know it was. But you're going to believe the spin thrown at you by Trump, the most honest man in the world. Accepting a $350 million gift from Qatar. You're going to make excuses for that. There's always an excuse. There's always a yeah, but. Whatever Trump throws at you, yeah, but you're like, oh yeah, well, he said. Oh, it makes sense. We need to be friends with these countries. Okay. So you have to accept a bribe? Tell me how that's not a bribe. The ballroom that he's building. There are some people on the left, people like Bill Maher, who are like, it's not that big of a deal. I think it's a huge fucking deal. And here's why. I actually think it would be less of a big deal if taxpayers were paying for it. It would still be fucked up, because it's the last thing we need right now when Americans are trying to figure out how to pay their bills, trying to figure out which credit card to let default, trying to figure out what they're going to do about health insurance. Last thing we need is a ballroom. But how dense and voluntarily ignorant do you have to be to think that these corporations and billionaires like YouTube and Meta that are donating tens of millions of dollars to this ballroom, you're going to tell me that it's for the reason Trump cites? They're patriots. They love America. You're going to say that with a straight face and not be embarrassed to say that to me? But it's okay. It's because he's saving America. What is the logic? What is the mental gymnastics in your head? A president that on his sleeve is carrying out these pay-for-play schemes. Trump's kids, who run his businesses in Saudi Arabia, multiple business endeavors there right now, while Trump is hosting and has a military flyover for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. This is normal to you? You think this is him playing 5D chess? When the ABC reporter called out the Crown Prince for the murder and dismemberment, the hacking apart of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, Trump didn't just deflect the question. He berated that reporter and then jumped to the defense of this murderer and actually made excuses. You're with that? You're okay with that? You think that that's some tactic of Trump? Do you remember back in Helsinki, I can't remember the year, it was during Trump's first term, when all the Russia shit, which they say, Russia hoax, it actually isn't a hoax if you look into it. If you actually understand what went down, a lot of that Mueller report was very damning to Trump. A lot of it. But Trump likes to just play everything off as a hoax so he can build his case that he's this victim. But anyways, he, on camera, in a press interview with Vladimir Putin, said, I don't believe my own intelligence people. I believe Putin. Putin says he didn't have anything to do with it. Good enough for me. Where's your off-ramp? Where? How many excuses do you have to make just because this guy is on your side? Why aren't you upset at people like Jesse Waters on Fox News who are knowingly lying to you and manipulating you? It should disgust you. You should want more of your party. Because none of this is me asking you to switch to becoming a Democrat. Not at all. What I'm asking my Trump supporting friends to do is find your conservative roots. Because you're lost. You've been led astray. I'm asking you to go back and find your compass. Recenter yourself, because you're not where you used to stand. I am. I have not changed in 30 years. I believed the same thing since I was a teenager. You are not the same. Because every time you've made an exception for the things Trump does that go against your Christian values or just your values in general, every time you've done that, it's been a fork in the road where you had the choice to say that you're not okay with that, but you decided to make that fork. And it's happened hundreds of times now. You are so off your original path, but you don't know it because you're off that path and you're in a bubble. And it's a comforting bubble. It provides validation to you. You're hearing what you need to hear. You're surrounded by all your friends who are in the same situation you're in. So it's a feedback loop. It's an echo chamber. It's why you believe what you believe so strongly. This whole Epstein file thing, the way that it's gone down, hundreds of red flags. The sudden pivoting by Trump, like, come on. You can't possibly believe his excuses on this one. We are talking about the rape and sexual abuse of, I won't say women because they're not women, girls, children, as young as 14. And even if by some miracle of the odds, Trump didn't carry out any of these acts, he still was there. He knows about it. These new emails that have been released that the GOP has tried to respin as a desperate grasp at straws by Dems. No. Sorry. If it walks like a duck, sounds like a duck. It's pathetic how they try to spin things to protect their master. And it's time for you to be embarrassed at falling for it. Stop falling for it. I could go on and on. This is already over 30 minutes long. But I'm trying so fucking hard here. I make an exception for older friends and family over the age of 60 because I understand that you come from another time. Your trust is rooted in a different place. You believe things that are delivered to you because of how you used to be able to believe them when they were delivered to you in a different way. But you don't understand that the mechanisms have changed. You don't understand that your Facebook feed, your Instagram feed, whatever social media you're on, it learns you. And it feeds you what you need to hear. And it does it in a way that's seamless. You don't know that it's doing it. Because the more it can get you radicalized and the more it can get you to exist in a vacuum, the more money for its advertisers. And all of these podcasts, even these network news organizations that are so good at crafting the propaganda for you so that it seems like they are with you, they're on your side, they're your champions, they're fighting with you. You need to understand, you are the product. It is all about their advertisers, their sponsors. The only thing their sponsors care about is how hooked you are on on the content of these people, of Fox News, of Ben Shapiro, Benny Johnson, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck. All of these people who, if you didn't know any better, they seem like they are righteous. They are digging up the truth. It's all bullshit. These people are going to land on a very dark side in history. Guaranteed. And the only thing that keeps them going is if they can keep you being a sucker. So just find the courage. Find some bravery to pivot. To listen to somebody like me and realize that yes, lots wrong on the left. I am not a super hardcore liberal. I could go all day about the flaws on the left and the silly things on the left. But none of them pose the threat that Trump and MAGA poses. That's why you don't hear me talk about it. If MAGA and Trump vaporizes and goes away and we get back to normal, you'll hear me criticizing the left like crazy. But it's not important right now. What is going on right now? We are at a critical turning point in our nation's history that couldn't be overstated enough. Like, this is serious. This isn't something that I'm into because I'm bored. I got a lot going on in my life. The fact that I'm finding time to talk about this kind of proves how serious it is. So just dare to listen to me on this. That's all I gotta say. We're at 35 minutes. It's time to get off the Trump train. It is a con job. It is the wrong side of history. I assure you. You gotta trust me on this one. Love y'all.